Welcome to the Healthy and Wealthy and Wise podcast with global sales trainer and professional speaker, Lois Kofi. Each week, it is her goal to share inspiration and education for you to be, do, have the best health and wealth and wisdom for your life.
Well, hello and happy Friday, everyone. Lois Kofi back for another exciting weekly episode of Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. And if you're joining us and you've actually been watching week after week, this is my usual Friday day, but I did pivot and I changed my time, just kind of making you guys aware starting in the month of November. This is going to be my new time every single week for this show. Next week, I will actually still have a guest at the quote unquote, what used to be normal time. But today I wanted to go a little earlier because I have a guest, an amazing guest who's a client of mine from the East Coast. And he's got a lot of exciting stuff that he's going to share and really bring a message of hope on how he rocket launched essentially a new business. And we're going to talk about how he did it. And it's an amazing story. I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. If you're joining us live, go ahead, comment below and hit hashtag live. If you're joining us on the replay, go ahead and hit hashtag replay and wherever you're tuning in from. And if there's time as a reward for you guys tuning in live towards the end, we can have take a couple of questions. That's the value of having a live studio audience. And if you haven't already, please join my Healthy and Wealthy and Wise Facebook community. Just go into Facebook URL, search Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, and you'll get to meet my guest today inside of that group. So that's another reminder. And if you have any questions or comments, or if you want other opportunities to see specific guests of different topics, please text those topics or questions to my number, 612-799-8791. And today I want to go ahead and introduce our guest because this is really all about sharing hope, encouragement, and all sorts of new ideas that can equip you guys as salespeople, entrepreneurs in this new normal to live your best life. And from time to time, I have health experts on here. Wealth experts last week was a leadership expert. And then, of course, personal development and wisdom experts. And I really love when I can bring in a testimonial of someone who's out there getting it done. And Michael Whitehouse is that guy. He's a coach. He's an author, published author. He's a podcaster. And he's the owner of A Guy Who Knows a Guy. And it's so cool because we met through BNI just, I don't know, Michael, a couple months ago. It hasn't been that long. And you really are a connector, a master networker. So guys, please tune in to what he has to share today, because a lot of times it is not what you know, right? It's who you know and who knows you. And Michael is that guy who people go to because he knows a guy or a gal that can help you in whatever area that you have a desire to grow and expand. So Michael, why don't you go ahead and tell our audience, tell us about a little bit about where you've come from, your story, and especially how you've pivoted in 2020.
Sure. So probably should start by muting my phone.
You're famous. People are like, Michael, I see you.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, the telemarketers all see me on here, and they're ready to call and sell me some timeshares. But yeah, so I've been coaching people in a kind of casual hobby way for 20, 25 years. I mean, I can think back to high school when I would, people would come to me with their problems, and I'd be able to kind of have a conversation with them, and they'd be like, "Oh, wow, that's really helpful." And I always kind of thought, well, people probably get paid for this, but I didn't really know how to make it work. And we just never had the confidence or the focus. And here and there, I'd take a shot at trying to do some kind of consulting thing or some kind of coaching thing. But in 2020, I was publishing a couple of community magazines, and I'd figured out a great thing with local networking to build brand presence and bring in clients and all that. And then once I lost my face-to-face networking, belly to belly, as you say, I suddenly realized either I need to reinvent the completely or pivot. And I actually came across a strategy for for building a coaching business, just a particular marketing and sales strategy, nothing too fancy. While I was looking for a way to sell more magazine sponsors. So once I learned that, I said, well, I tried to use it for the magazine and it didn't work because it was just the wrong tool. It was like trying to use a hammer on a screw. And I said, well, I've got these screws I want to put into the board. Maybe I should try it on that. I've always kind of wanted to be a coach. Let's give it a shot. And I signed up 7 clients in 7 weeks. And I said, no, this might be a thing. This might be what I should be doing since it's kind of my calling. And so my coach kept going. And then when I connected with you through BNI, took your pop-up course and learned a bit about email. Well, somebody was reminded about email because I had a list with 300-400 people on it. And at the time I originally created it because big networker. I was going to all the different chambers in the area and finding, because all their calendars were different formats, but once you know them, it's a 20-minute process to go through and pull all the events off them. So I had this master list of events and I said, this is probably valuable. I should send it to people. So I started a newsletter list, which was not terribly useful once there are no more in-person events. So it just kind of went fallow. And so I connected with you and learned about, what to do with it and realized I had all these connections, people who said, oh yeah, keep in touch. Let me know what's going on. I want to know, who I hadn't actually bothered to put in the list. And once I started focusing on that, I was able to get up to, I think it's 830 people I have on my list now. It should be over 1,000 once I get a few more of those emails entered. And just kind of pointed me in the direction of more marketing and strategy and a lot of different things. Actually, you got me on StreamYard, which is I'm all kinds of potential, and I like this form that we're doing so much. I may start doing my own live cast with people in a public group as well. So I think that things are going pretty good.
That's so awesome. I'm so proud of you. And I mean, you shared that pretty quickly. I will say, I know there's more to the story. You're overcoming fears. You're going into uncharted waters or territory, right? Because you haven't had full-time coaching business before. You even had the part-time income. You took a leap of faith and got rid of that so you can really focus on your genius. So talk more about how you have been able to face your fears and do it anyway and go after your dreams and goals amidst a pandemic.
Yeah. So, I mean, in some ways, it's Dolly Parton who says freedom is another word for nothing left to lose. So, I was in a position where my previous business was on a glide slope. Like I did not have tools that made sense that would pull it out of the dive before the pandemic ended. So I said, I can either ride this one all the way into the ground and then, or I can do what I've always wanted to do. And something I found with some of my clients too is some of the luckiest ones are the ones who were laid off. People who are in a job, making that leap from leaving your job, even if you don't have to leave your job to start, thinking about leaving your job, doing the preliminary steps, the research, the side hustle type work, it's still, you're thinking about leaving the job and you're like, but I've got my safe, secure job. And I always say, we talk about stable jobs, 34 million Americans got laid off and they're learning what stable job means. Means job that you have no control over and hope for the best. But so they're the ones who were laid off, they're getting unemployment and they're in that position. They say, well, I got to do something. I can't find a job. And I say, okay, well, let's take your skills and do something with them. So a lot of it is I'm teaching people to do what I'm doing. So there wasn't really, occasionally I will stop and look around and be like, holy moly, am I actually running my own business? Holy. Yeah. If you've seen the movie, I don't know if you remember the movie Independence Day. There's a scene in it when they're flying up to the mothership and Jeff Goldblum's character starts going, oh boy. And Will Smith's character is like, what's wrong? And he's suddenly like just realizing that this stuff that he was writing on a whiteboard, he's now flying into an alien mothership to execute, and he better be right. And I've had a couple of those moments where I'm like, oh boy. I mean, on paper, this is right. All my coaches tell me I'm doing the right thing. Everything points to this in the right direction, but oh boy. But then it's just a matter of kind of, moving past it and getting back and having structure is a huge part of it. having, and so learning the 12-week year stuff that I've learned from you, and also just everything's on the calendar, and I'm as much as possible looking to put everything from the to-do list on the calendar. So not just a list of things to do whenever. It's I have these slots for work on the calendar, and then in those slots are, on Thursday, okay, I'm going to work on the academy and creating content. On Tuesday morning from 9 to 10:30, I'm working on the podcast. So there is to-do list, because sometimes I got to know, someone cancels a call or whatever. But having and at the beginning of the week saying, by the end of the week, I want to have blank, and then making sure on the calendar are the times when I will do the things I want to get done at the end of the week, so that I don't need to worry about it. And that's getting back to your original question about 20 minutes ago. You asked about fear. What causes the fear is when you stop to think. When you have to pull back to big picture, when you're just thinking like, I'm digging a trench, one shovel at a time, digging a trench. When you realize you're digging it because the mortars are about to start falling, then you're like, oh my God. But if it's just, I'm digging a trench, just one shovel at a time, then you don't think about it. You don't think big picture. You think, can I write a blog article? Yes. Can I record this podcast? Yes. Can I plan this course? Yes. Can I make $50,000? See, you're not making $50,000. You're making an article. You're making, putting up some Facebook posts. So I do my executive planning on usually Sunday, and of course, life always gets in the way. But I try to do my executive planning at executive planning time, and then I try to, and then to execute that plan for the week. And hopefully, I've planned a good enough plan on the weekend that executing that will then result in having that outcome by the end. And then realizing that, any given week is not life or death. So hopefully I'm further closer to the goal by the end of the week. And if not, then there's another week after it.
I love your mindset on that. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is a habit. Daily activity. Most people focus, like you said, they want to make $5,000 a month. Well, you just use that as an example. But then they just keep looking at the 5,000 and going, why is it not here? Why is it not here? Why is it not here? And it's all about the mindset and the activity. And I want to acknowledge you. You've been building an audience. You have a Facebook group, and your emails. Oh my gosh, I'm on your email list now because, of course, as a good list building coach, I'm going to ask to be and require you to email me. And you've done a phenomenal job from basically going from one end of the spectrum to another in a very short period of time. So I want to just kind of get any other ideas or thoughts on how you shifted from not really having an email list. And I know my course was a huge part of it. If you want to share little things about it within that course that helped you, great. But now you have a new habit. Because how many days would you say or weeks that you've been consistent with your email list?
When was it? September sometime. So 5-6 weeks.
Okay. So how did you go from 0 to hero, I'll just say, in that short period of time? How did you unlock, kind of unbox that story for us more?
Well, I mean, so some of the growth was contacts I already had who just weren't assembled into the email list. So that was kind of the first thing I did, was I've been networking pretty actively. I mean, the guy who knows the guy is not just a brand name. I do a lot of networking events, collect a lot of business cards. And so I had a lot of people who were like, oh yeah, I want to know more what you do. Here's my card. Sign me up. And then that card sat in a box for 2-3 years. And so then I added them, and started, and I set up a nurture sequence that started with, like, I'd like to communicate with you in this way, because they had expressed interest. And then I made it very clear, if you're not interested, I put the subscribe button right in the top paragraph, and then again in the third paragraph. So, no, not trying to trick anyone into anything. And I was honestly expecting I'd add 400 people and I'd have 150 left, because they'd be like, oh, I don't want to get more email. And I only lost 2%, 2.5%. Because I think a lot of people have been watching what I'm doing. I like what you're doing. And to some degree, I get this feedback sometimes from people saying, it's about freaking time. Like, you were selling cars and printing and insurance. You should have been a coach 10 years ago. It's about freaking time you're doing this. So I think now they're seeing the emails. They're like, yes, this is the Michael we've been waiting for. And I think I got a bit of a imposter syndrome, inferiority complex, whatever you want to call it, because I wasn't working in my strength. So the feedback I get from people was kind of like, you're a pretender. You're not an imposter, but yeah, you're not the real deal. You're just selling something. You're just working a job, whatever. You're not someone I want to work with. And I got that feedback, and that made me think, well, sure glad I'm not working as myself. Glad I'm working for someone else. Because imagine if I got that when it was all me. And now that it's all me, I don't get that. I don't get people saying, I don't want to work with you, because I'm 100% authentic now. And what I love about the coaching business is I can give such value even before I ask for money. And I know that there's some coaches out there who work in the space of like bringing people's businesses from 5 figures to 6 figures, and they can charge giant piles of money. And that would be great if that was my calling. Sadly, that is not my calling. My calling is helping people pivot their lives from, wage slavery, as I sometimes call it. I want to be inflammatory. But, working their steady job for $16, $17 an hour, where they're steadily driving into poverty, unless they get laid off, in which case they rapidly go into poverty. And to go from there to realizing that they can sell their skills for $300,000, $500,000 a pop. But people in that position, they don't have $10,000 for a big course. And a lot of them, talked to someone this morning who absolutely has everything that she needs for a little bit of technical skill, but everything she needs to be teaching courses. She has a master's degree, she has all these things, but she doesn't know how to do Zoom and some of the other just little tiny things. But she can't afford the coaching. She can't afford to hire a coach. She can barely afford to cover her bills. And I'm more and more trying to figure out ways to help people who are at that stage to get to where they can then get to the next step, into the next step, into the next step. But it's very meaningful for me that I can have that half-hour conversation with someone for free and do the free the free coaching session, and they'll come out of that being like, wow, I now know which direction I'm heading. I know you can't guide me there, but at least I know where I'm going, and I've got something like that. Because something I'm sort of cognizant of, there's a Michael Lewis who wrote Liar's Poker and The Big Short. He has a podcast where he talks about coaching, and one thing he says is coaching is one of those things that makes those who are good even better. Michael Jordan has like 6 coaches, whereas Jimmy on the basketball court in town has no coaches. Jimmy needs a lot more help than Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan's the best. I don't even know if Michael Jordan still plays anymore, but you get the idea.
Can I interrupt you there for a second though? Because you're touching on something that is really, really powerful. And I want to acknowledge you for this. Like, I hired my coaches through finding them through podcasts, right? And I know you have a podcast. I have a podcast. You are a coach. I'm a coach. The best coaches hire coaches. So you hired me to help you be better. Can you speak to why that is so important? Because I know for me, I wouldn't hire a coach who didn't have a coach, So I think some people are like, well, you're a coach. Why do you need a coach? So can you speak to that?
Yeah, well, I think it's some of the same reason a therapist needs a therapist and a doctor needs a doctor. And I think the legal profession is where the expression, the lawyer who represents himself has a fool for a client. So, in coaching, a lot of what a coach does is get you out of your own head, keep you focused on your objectives, create accountability. And so, yes, I'm a coach, you're a coach, but I can't coach me and you can't coach you because you're too close. You're too involved in. Same reason why for most people, their spouse does not make a very good coach. Because again, they're too close and involved. So you're like, I'm kind of worried that the money might come up short this month. Your spouse is like, I'm really worried the money's going to come up short. They're not going to help set your mind at ease or keep you focused. So it's crucial to get that outside perspective, and to get someone, getting back to that dig in the trench example. I'm in there, I'm digging the trench. To have someone who's standing up on the ledge to say, hey, there's a big boulder in front of you. You might want to turn 10 degrees. Be like, oh, I could have seen that if I climbed up and looked, but I climb up to look. And one of the things I said with the emails, I had an email list already. I'd stopped using it. I was reminded, and some of the things that I learned, like the EIEIO sequence and things like that, I learned and I've used them. But others were things I already knew, and you helped bring it back. And I'm like, oh, I knew that. But I'm sure all the knowledge of the universe is in my head somewhere. Just like I'm sure many items of value are in these piles of stuff in my office. But you need the coach to help you sort out what are the priorities, what are the areas to focus on, what are your strengths. I think if I'd hired a coach 10 years ago, I would have become a coach 10 years ago.
I can identify. I can resemble that remark, because I told you, I was very transparent when you hired me. I'm like, I'm only 6 to 12 months in front of you. So in some ways, we're pacing each other and we're running buddies. And I just you made a great point. Like our friends right now, if you're going through a tough time, guys, your friends can't always be your therapist, because a lot of people are going through their own stuff. So having that trained professional, trained support, and you talk about your free offer, and I know we talked about scaling your offers as a coach. Like that's why I was so grateful to make my list build class only $9. And oh, by the way, if you're listening to this live, you can still sign up. Even on Monday when this goes on iTunes, you guys can still sign up for this class. It's only $9 to help you. And I know, Michael, you have low cost monthly programs, right? And then you have all the way up to one-on-one coaching. So I want to acknowledge you, because that's brilliant. You're scaling your business so that you can make money all sorts of different ways within your business. So that's exciting.
Yeah. And some of it's, and so I find that the best way to learn is just find people who are doing it well and copy them. So I've been thinking about doing some kind of $9 course. I'm like, this is a great model. I should do it too. But I hadn't been able to wrap my head around it when I was thinking of it as a business thing. When I was more of like I'll give this for free as a sample, and then I can maybe upgrade them to something else. And I had an epiphany this morning when I was talking to someone who I realized just needed a bunch of the basics. And pretty sure she has $9. She might not, but she probably has it. And honestly, if she's like, I don't even have $9, I can give away the $9 course for free if somebody really needs it and tells me their story. But it creates the opportunity for someone who has nothing. And this is where it's mission driven. For someone who has nothing, but they're in that place where I can say, well, listen to this course. It's $9. It's $9. I want some buy-in from you. You listen to that. That's going to help you. And actually, I may call it how to earn your first $1,000. Because once you've done that, now you can afford to hire a coach or to do, whatever the next step is. Now you're running a business and you can invest back into it. And your 1,000 can make your next 5,000. Your 5,000 makes your next 10,000. And that's where it really, really builds up. Because I've been very aware. I very much believe in the American dream. A lot of people say the American dream is dead and it's the economy is so bad. And it is. If you're just trying to get a job at a factory to support your family, it's a rough place to be. But the American dream didn't die. It just moved over here while no one was looking. And you can't just get a college degree and go get a job and American dream. The American dream is now entrepreneurship. And because of the internet, anyone can now seize it. I have yet to talk to someone I can say, yeah, no, you don't have any skills. You're out of luck. Everyone I've talked to has a skill. They can, design a simple website. They can do internet research. They can do proofreading or copywriting or virtual assisting and all kinds of things that if you're just trying to replace your awful job, your job that pays you $300-400 a week, that can be your first step to get you on the ladder of the American dream and get there. And that's really I almost have kind of run into this problem. I meet so many people that need my help that I want to find some ways to help them. And I need to resist the urge to be like, I'll just help you all for free, because then I will not have the American dream myself. I will have the American cardboard box to live in.
Well, and don't worry, you have me. I won't let you give it all away for free. Although you do have a really cool lead magnet. I'm going to call it for what it is in the world of what you and I are doing. You have a book. You have a book. I want you to talk about that. And within that, how did you come up with your brand, which I think is really unique and brilliant? Guy who knows a guy. So talk about those two things.
So here's my book, The Guy Who Knows a Guy, which I think is inverting in the screen for some reason. But trust me, it's a great looking cover. So it came about because I came to Southeast Connecticut in 2014 knowing nobody but my wife, my unborn daughter, and one friend who I did not realize lived in town. So I had no connections, nothing. And that was the first time I said, I'm going to launch a business. I also had no business plan, but that had nothing to do with networking. So knowing nobody, I said, I need to know people. So I just kind of jumped in and started meeting people. Started going to chamber events and just kind of took on this attitude of, I'm going to meet everybody. And very quickly, I was meeting people of note, mayors and CEOs and the chairman of the Mohegan Gaming Commission, which if you've ever heard of Mohegan Sun, that's basically the chairman of the board of Mohegan Sun. So, I met all these people and was able, and very quickly realized I'd meet someone who seemed to be a big deal in town. I'd drop a couple names. They'd be like, oh, I don't know them. And I realized I was doing something. And then I realized I knew what I was doing. I could write it down and somebody could reproduce it. So I sat down to write the book. It's a short read, 76 pages. It's fun. It's because, you think networking book and you're like, oh boy, I can't wait to read a networking book. That sounds like fun. But there's stories. It's funny. There's I'm told from my readers, laugh out loud moments. So it's a fun, easy read. And the point of it is that I wanted to put things in there that you could read and immediately use. So you could, and it's of course not written for the COVID world. You have to adapt it. So anything about going to chamber events is going to have to wait until we have those again. But the basic principles of reaching out to people, of you have value, of you're not wasting their time when you talk to them, those kinds of things, those are all totally valid. And so when you subscribe to my email list, which I believe is right down there at the bottom of the screen.
Yes, I put it on the screen. I'll put it in the show notes. And of course, we'll plaster it on YouTube all over.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you've got guywhoknowsaguy.com/subscribe. Just realize some people are listening to this and not watching it. Guywhoknowsaguy.com/subscribe. Sign up for the email list, and you will get an automated sequence, as Lois calls it, a nurture series, which Lois helped me write. So if you're like, wow, these are really good emails. Yep, that's who. Oh, you're on that side. That's who do it. And one of the emails you will get will contain the PDF or link to the PDF of The Guy Who Knows a Guy, the book, which is free. If you want a hard copy version, those are a little bit harder to give away free. So those you can get on Amazon, but you can get a free version, which is just as readable through that. So all you have to do is sign up for the email list. You'll get that. And of course, then you'll be informed of all the other things coming up, including my $9 course whenever I get around to finishing it and getting it out there.
Well, and you also have your Facebook community. Tell them about your Facebook community and a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah. So I actually have two podcasts. One is the Michael's Motivation podcast, which you can find on, if you search for The Guy Who Knows a Guy group, is probably the best way to follow it. Is a private group. I'm actually going to be launching a public group as well. I just haven't, as of airtime, hadn't gotten that together. But you can join The Guy Who Knows a Guy group where you'll see it. And that is a daily podcast. So every day I record 1 to 5 minutes of just kind of whatever's on my mind, really. But it's something valuable, something motivating, something about either marketing or goal setting or focus or, eliminating your limitations and your doubts. And then my other podcast is The Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast, which was originally supposed to be my flagship podcast because it's where I bring on different guests and interview them and ask and answer your questions. So I have people send in questions. And that's at guywhoknowsaguy.com/podcast. And you can find both Michael's Motivation and The Guy Who Knows a Guy on all major podcast platforms. So you should be able to search them up anywhere. But that one's weekly and a little more involved and structured. But that's one where I actually want to have people send in questions and send in their stories and whatnot. And then I and whoever my guest is that week will actually address their questions and trying to solve real people's problems and answer real people's questions right there on the show, because that American dream is very much alive if only you can find it.
I hope I get to be on your podcast soon, right? Hint,
I believe that can be arranged. Yeah, I think we can do that.
Awesome. And if you guys ever want to be on Michael's podcast or reach out to him, please do subscribe to his email list. He's a guy to watch. I want you to sign up for his email list. If nothing else, then guywhoknowsaguy.com/subscribe. Go there and watch him, because he's on the up and up. He's very coachable. He's definitely someone who can be a great connector and a resource for you. And I can't thank you enough for being here today, Michael. I always want to end. I'll just do a couple reminder things for my audience, but then I want to end with that final question that I ask everyone who's on my podcast. Before I do, guys, just remember to subscribe if you haven't already to healthyandwealthyandwise.com. That's my email list of my nurture series, and where you will get this recorded post-production interview of Michael, so that you can rewatch this and be inspired, encouraged, and equipped to know that you can do this. I love what you said, Michael, about the American dream. It's not elusive. And I think everyone has their own definition of what that looks like. When you create your own business, a lot of the best businesses were started during the Great Recession or the Great Depression, and they're still flourishing through today. So if you need any more resources as well, you can always go to my website, loiscovey.com/resources. That's actually where StreamYard and all the things that I've been helping Michael. There's a lot of free resources. And then, of course, there's other paid resources. But if you're looking for free stuff, go to that link. And I guarantee you'll find something that can help you get through this new normal. So my last question for you, Michael, is, since this topic of healthy and wealthy and wise is so near and dear to my heart, and it's the name of my podcast, and it'll be the future name of my next book, what does that mean to you when you hear the phrase healthy, wealthy, and wise?
Well, it's about integrating success. If you make $1 million, but you end up divorced and 200 pounds with hypertension, then you didn't win. It's like having great offense and bad defense. You still lose. So it's about integrating the health, that your body is there for you, so you're not getting tired too in the afternoon. The money, because you got to, as one of my chapters in my book says, monetization makes the world go round. And wise, which is knowing how to keep it. Because if you're healthy and you got the money, but you don't have the wisdom, you're gonna screw it up. So having that wisdom, and whether it comes from within or from higher power, from friends, from coaches, I think wisdom comes from a lot of places. And if you don't have all three of those things, it's you can have a 3-legged stool, you can't have a 2-legged stool. So
awesome. I love it. That was a phenomenal one. That was a quotable one, guys. So thank you again, Michael. Thank you guys again for tuning in, whether it was live or in iTunes or YouTube or wherever you happen to find this. I hope that this brought value and encouragement for you today. Tune in next time, next Friday. I'll be having another amazing guest, Jo Hausman. She's a podcaster, fellow coach, author. She's started a massive virtual assisting business during the Great Recession and has a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom. So please tune in next time. And until then, here's to your best health, your best wealth, and your best wisdom. Bye-bye for now.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, refer a friend, and please drop me a rating or a review. If you do that, I'll reward you with a free 20-minute free coaching session on crafting your journey to your best self. Reach out to me at lois@loiscovey.com to claim your 20-minute slot. Until next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise.